Okay, let's start another program, and we'll make this program calculate your bank balance. Meaning what? So let me just start this one, new class. I'll call it bank balance. Any particular bank we're going to use, Bank of America, whatever you want it to be. So first let's talk about this program. What is it supposed to do? So here's my remark. It's going to calculate the balance for any number of years, or the user will type in the number of years, any number of years. And the one thing to remember, I'm using simple interest. So here we're going to be using simple interest, which means what? So if you put $1,000 today, let's say 1,000 initial deposit, that money will stay the same till the end of the year. At the end of the year, you will have the 1,000 that you put in plus the interest, and the interest is always equal to the rate, the interest rate, times the time. So basically let's say the interest rate is 5%. At the end of 1 year, your balance will be, if you take the rate, which is 5% times 1,000, that's $50, you'll have a balance of $1,050. And that becomes the new balance for the year after that. So going forward, this is like going to repeat itself. We can say the balance here will equal the previous balance, whatever the previous year was, plus the rate times the number of years. So it's going to repeat itself, which means I have to use a loop somehow here. And that's what I'm trying to introduce you to, kind of introduction to loops. So I don't know, let's use a scanner here because it's only reading a value. So import java.util.scanner. And again, if I'm going to use a scanner, I'm going to jump right there, and so I don't forget about it. I'm going to say scanner and give the scanner a name, whatever name you want to use. Keyboard, I don't know, equals new scanner system.in. So anytime I want to use now the scanner, I have to refer to by keyboard. So let's begin with your balance being 0 till we get a value for it. So that's a decimal value balance. So I'll go double balance equals 0. Doesn't really matter, even if I don't set it up, because I'm going to assign a value to it. I'm going to have the user enter the initial deposit. That's your balance initially, and it's going to change after that. The interest rate. Let's say the interest rate now it's fixed. I'm going to use a fixed value. I don't want it to change. So I'm going to say final rate. Now rate is going to be a decimal value, so that's double rate. And let's give it, for example, let's say it's 3.5%, which is 0.035. That's really, oh, I forgot the semicolon here. That's why it's giving me a syntax error. And that's 3.5% return every year. And the number of years is going to be adjustable. The person wants to figure things out. So years, I'm not going to say how many years. I'm going to let the person enter the number of years. The only thing I'm really fixing is the interest rate. Sometimes you walk in, you said, I have a CD, I want to deposit that. And they'll say, we'll give you 5.5% interest if you leave it for 20 years or 50 years. Every year we'll get 5.5%. So I want to know how much money you will have. So first thing I'm going to do is ask for the initial balance, initial deposit. So this section, we're going to read what? You know what? Let's read and validate. Let's make sure. Balance and years. I want to. It looks like I use capital letter for balance, lowercase. I'll stay consistent. I'll do years here because it looks like B, R, and Y. I use capital, no big deal. I'll stick with that. So I want to read the values, how many years you want to leave the money, and what's your initial balance. And I want to make sure I validate them, which means what? You can't put a balance negative value. You're not going to go to the bank. It says, I'd like to open an account and give you minus $10. They said, no, it has to be more than zero. And the number of years, let's say, maybe we'll say between 0, well, at least at 1 year to, I don't know, maximum maybe 99 years. We'll put a cap on it. So let's ask for the balance. Well, since I don't have the balance yet, so probably a good choice for that, if I'm going to validate that, is to use the do statement. The difference between the do and the while statement, the do statement lets you go through the loop at least once. So do, curly bracket to begin it, curly bracket to close it. And this will be a while statement, do while. While, I'm not going to put the condition here. I don't know what the condition yet. But let's talk about validating the balance. So I'm going to ask the person to enter the balance. So syso, please enter the initial deposit or balance. And maybe I'll do print instead of print line again, just to keep it on the same line. And when you see that, the person's going to type that number. So we're going to read that number, and we need to save it somewhere. Do you want to save it directly into balance? So we can say balance equals. So we're going to read from the keyboard. So that's keyboard dot. And since the number is double, I can say next double. That's a method that will take that number and read it for me. But here's the question. What happens if somebody types in a 0? Well, we don't want it to run if it's a 0. What about a negative value? I don't want it to run if it's a negative value. So I'm going to tell the machine, repeat this loop while what? While balance is less than or equal to 0. Because you're not going to have an account with 0 balance in it. The bank manager doesn't want to talk to you if you have no money. So now watch what happens. This will keep me inside this loop here till I type in a balance that's greater than 0. Let's test it. Enter your balance. Negative 50. Nope. Enter your balance. 0. Nope. Enter your balance. 1,000. Now that's a good number. It will take it. And now it just took it. So I'm stuck inside the loop till the balance is correct. Now next I need to validate the number of years. Now I use the do while here to validate. I just want to show you the difference between them. Maybe I'll use the while statement to validate the years. If you're going to use the while statement, you can't say while years, notice I left a space there intentionally, years is less than less than, or is it less than or equal to 0, or years is greater than 99 years. Now, you never want to put a semicolon right there because that ends that statement immediately. Regardless if this is true or false, whatever comes after it, if you put a semicolon there, will be executed. So here's what you're going to do. Curly bracket to begin, curly bracket to close it. While years. Now notice, because I'm trying to compare years here, they go, first, there's a problem. You don't know what years is. So how do you tell the machine to look and see if years is less than or equal to 0 if you don't even know what years is? Well, you can do one of two things. You can go right there and put years equals 0. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. I meant to do it right there. int years, and set it equal to 0. Now the error will disappear. So because I gave it initial value, that forced it to go through this loop. So if I copy this now, both of these lines, and I paste them there, so years initially was 0. Now we go through the loop. It says as long as this is true, well, 0 is less than or equal to 0. Yep. It's going to go through the loop. It says please enter the initial, well, not the initial, the number of years here. And the number of years was an integer value. Years. Keyboard next, instead of actually next double, this is next integer. Oh, dot next. Notice next int for integer. And I have an extra set of these. And that will repeat inside this till you type in the correct number of years. So you'll never make it to this. You'll never make it to this section until you have the correct balance, a balance that's bigger than 0. If you have a balance bigger than 0, then we'll ask you, the program will ask you to enter the number of years. So let's test it and see. We tested the balance early. Let's test the years. Enter the initial balance. I'll even test it again. -50. Nope. Enter the balance. Oh, that's, I'm going to put in 10,000. Number of years. 400 years. No. Please enter number of years. Now, there's one little problem. Well, it's not really a problem. It's just not a user-friendly. How is the person supposed to know at the other end that we're looking for the number of years between bigger than 0 and less than 100? So maybe what I should have done, please enter the initial balance. Please enter a balance greater than 0. Maybe be more specific. A balance larger than 0. So there, no, I'm looking for a balance larger than 0. Please enter the years. Or enter a year between, or enter and just let them know must be between or larger than 1, larger than 0, 0 and less than, that's an O, I'll fix it, less than 99. Now that'll be a little bit nicer, more user-friendly. says, please enter a balance larger than 0. So it lets them know. But again, just in case people don't read anything, no, larger than 0. Oh, 500 bucks. Please enter the number, enter the years. Must be, larger, I guess that's supposed to be G here. Larger than 0 and less than 99. So if I put 100, nope. If I put 0, nope. 50 years, that's good. And now it took it. So we have the two correct values. Now I'm going to have the program go through that and start looping and calculating what each value should be. So let's calculate here the balance. So this section is going to calculate balance. And now I know exactly how many times, how many years I want to keep my money in the bank. It has to be a whole number, by the way, integer value. So 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So I know exactly how many. If you know exactly how many, the for statement is really a better choice to use. So I'll do a for statement. I could use the while statement, but I'll use a for statement here. For, I'm going to define integer, y for years. And let's begin with the number 1, year 1, after you have the money sitting there for 1 year. As long as it's less than years, well, if I'm going to start with 1, maybe I want to go years or equal to. And each time incremented by 1 after you use it. Notice I'm putting the plus after the y. That means incremented after you use it. And what do you want to do? Let me get this one out of the way here. So I'm going to do curly bracket to open it, curly bracket to close it, lots of things. I want the balance. So we're going to start with the year being 1. The balance is going to be the previous balance, the initial deposit, the first time you go through it, plus the balance times, I call the rate, yep, the rate. And I want to show you after year 1, after year 2, after year 3, I want to show you what your balance will be year by year. So maybe I'll print this sys-o. And you know what? Let's use this printf, print with format. I talked about it in this chapter. Now the print with format, what do you want to print? So I want it to start by saying, double quotation, let's see, year, how about this, end of year number 1, number, print that. Then after that, I want you to put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't need the number, maybe year 1, year 2, year 3. I don't need the pound. So after year 1, after at the end of year 1, end of year 2, end of year 3, end of year 4, your balance is. So I wanted to put the year there. So the year is integer value, that's percent D for integer. End of year 1, your balance is $. I'm going to put a $sign here. And I'm going to put the balance. And I really have no idea how big the number is. So percent, if I say 5.2, what 5.2 means, Here I'm going to put a type it there just to give you an example what 5.2 might be. That could be like 564 point. That's what 5.2. It says, actually that's the 6.2. The number of digit, I want it to be 5. Well, there is 5 because you have to count the decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's really 5. And I want 2 decimal places. And I got to use the letter F for decimal. So I need 2 decimals. So the 2 here tells me 2 decimal places, but this one tells me 5 digits. Well, I know that's not going to be big enough. That's not going to be big enough. Java is smart. If you put a value, if your number is bigger than really that number, they don't listen to you. They'll expand it for you automatically. If you put a silly number, if I put 10 here, then it leaves a lot of spaces. So it might not look nice. So I'll put here just 10 just to show you what it might look like. That number can be this big. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be that big. What happens if you don't have money that big? Then the extra in the front will be just extra spaces. So I'll leave it there. I'll leave the 10, then I'll come back and fix it. So these are the 2 things. Now I want you to go to the next line and show me what year 2 looks like. Then show me what year 3 balance looks like. What year 4, 5, 6, 7. And comma now, you got to tell the machine what are the things you want to print. You want to print Y, because that's really the year 1, year 2. And you want to print the balance. These are the 2 things you want to print. So let's see what my output looks like. Save it, run it, and let me move it up just a little bit so we get to see it. Enter a balance, please enter a balance larger than 0. Let's say we're going to start with a $10,000 investment. We had a scratch ticket for $10,000. Number of years, I'm going to leave it there. So, this is my retirement. I got 35 years to go. Let's go 21 years left for retirement for you. At the end of 21 years, how much money are you going to have? And it shows you year by year. Notice how the extra space is in the front there between the dollar sign, because we told the machine to make it what? 10 digits long. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 2 extra spaces in the front there. The reason this went to the right 1 place, because notice we went to 2 digits here. So I can really make them line up nicely. If I want to make them line up nicely, I say, you know what? Where is it? Where's my print statement? Make the number of years here, make it 2 digits. So what happens when it's year 1, year 2? So let's run that. End of year number 1, maybe I'll put a comma here. Your balance is, so you'll know. Let's save it and run it. Again, 10,000 now. And 21 years. And notice how we put the extra space there. By making this 10 here, we have 2 extra spaces. Run it. Well, what about if somebody like Bill Gates wants to check their balance? Because, let's put in $10 million. And let's leave it for 15 years. He's older now. And that's what his balance is. So if you count how many digits there, let's see, 1, 2, count the decimal point, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Because your number is bigger than 10, they didn't listen to us. They said, we're going to adjust it so everything will look nice. So that's what you can do actually. A lot of people, what they do actually, instead of this being 10, they use a lower number. So you will not have the space between the dollar sign and your number. So if you say I'm going to use a 3, which means the number really doesn't have any digits, because 2 decimal places, 1 decimal point, that's 3. So your number is going to be bigger than 3. So the machine is not going to listen to you, but you will not have a space between the dollar sign and your number. And here we go, the 10,000 and 21 years we did before. And notice how the money here lines up there. Because your number is not big enough, and they're going to adjust it the way they think is more appropriate. There is no extra space. And there's an extra space right here. I'll stop with this one.